Nelly Kass, Opera Philadelphia Scholar in Residence, and it is my pleasure today to introduce you to a brand new opera, 10 Days in a Madhouse. This will be the world premiere of 10 Days in a Madhouse, which was co-commissioned by Opera Philadelphia and the Toronto-based company Tapestry Opera. With music by Rene Orth and a text by Moscovitch, this opera reflects on an important event in the history of journalism and in mental health care in the United States: the writer Nelly Bly's undercover stay at the Women's Asylum at Blackwell's Island. In this short video, I will delve into the historical context and then briefly describe how music, text, and visual elements come together to dramatize these 10 days in a way that is simultaneously intimate and far-reaching. Nelly Bly was born Elizabeth Jane Cochran in Western Pennsylvania in 1864. Although she had an interest in writing, she did not have the funds to finish her college degree past a single semester. Her talent was discovered when she wrote a letter to the editor of the Pittsburgh Dispatch, objecting to an article that the paper had run about the role of women as mothers, caretakers, and housekeepers. The editor not only ran Bly's letter in the paper, but he went on to hire her to write about things like careers for women, rare at a time when most female journalists were only tasked with writing about fashion. Bly decided to find her next opportunity in New York, and in 1887, she pitched herself to the editors of the New York World. To show them that she was willing to be bold and daring, one of the ideas she presented was to go to Europe and return to the United States undercover as a passenger in steerage to show the experience of newly arrived immigrants in an expose. The managing editor, John Cockrell, thought that proposal was too risky for a new hire, but he suggested that instead she could go undercover more locally as an inmate of the Women's Asylum on Blackwell's Island. Cockrell did not give Bly any instructions for how she was to make it onto Blackwell's Island, and she was left to figure out how to get herself committed. She decided to go to a boarding house for working women under the name of Nellie Brown and to feign insanity in that public but somewhat controlled environment. She guessed at what would scare the other women enough to contact the authorities, mostly consisting of refusing to sleep and staring blankly into space. She successfully convinced the inhabitants of the house that she was insane, and they had the police take her away. Bly was less sure that she would make it past men who professed to be experts in insanity, but she did again and again until she landed where she needed to be for her assignment, Blackwell's Island. Nelly Bly had plenty to report of her time there, including the overcrowding of the facilities, the lack of heat, the insufficiency of the clothes, and the inedible food. Bly didn't just write in broad strokes, however. She told the stories of individual inmates who she met along the way. Some could not speak English. Others were discriminated against because they were from Ireland. Others appeared to just be poor or otherwise in need of social welfare. Nelly Bly was sure that many of these women were perfectly sane. To test her theory, she determined that she would no longer put on an act of insanity, but would act as she would have in her outside life, asserting that she was sane and demanding to be reevaluated. The doctors and nurses again and again stuck to her original diagnosis. She would not have been released but for her newspaper editor's intervention, and after 10 long days on Blackwell's Island, the newspaper's lawyer brought her back to Manhattan, where she quickly wrote up her report. Nelly Bly's expose of conditions in the asylum contributed to inspections and reforms, and eventually the closing of the facility. Librettist Moscovitch and composer Rene Orth saw in Nelly Bly's experience a wealth of material for an opera. They have transformed Bly's journalistic endeavor into an atmospheric 80-minute-long opera for 2 sopranos, a mezzo-soprano, a baritone, a women's chorus, and 12 instruments. Supported by a 2019 Opera America Female Commissioning Grant, the all-female creative team examines what it meant for women to be declared insane in 19th century American society, given that in almost all cases, the people with the power to arbitrate sanity were men. The principal roles in the opera are Nelly, the doctor, the nurse, and another inmate of the asylum named Lizzie. They are joined by 9 other inmates who, although they are nameless in the opera, have distinct personalities and backgrounds. The doctor is the personification of the wider systemic patriarchal forces that have historically shut away women for not conforming to society. And as such, he is given the name Dr. Blackwell in the libretto, eliding the man with the institution itself. For those of you who are familiar with New York geography, you may be interested to note that Blackwell's Island is now called Roosevelt Island and is located between the boroughs of Manhattan and Queens. The opera's set symbolically evokes the asylum as a type of closed loop or dead end, while the costumes place the action firmly in the late 19th century. Rene Orth writes beautiful lyrical lines for the voice, which she then often manipulates through the use of electronics, looping voices and distorting them, creating echoing effects and so on, to create a phantasmagoric soundscape. It is often unclear to us in the audience which sounds are external and which are figments of the characters' imaginations. The powerful singing actress Kira Duffy, who wowed our audiences in her tour de force performance as Bess in the world premiere of Missy Mazzoli's Breaking the Waves in 2016, returns to our stage as Nelly Bly, a career woman with a mission, not fully prepared for the trauma she will witness. Baritone Will Liverman, who is an emerging artist with our company in 2015 and has appeared with us several times since, plays Dr. Blackwell, who kindly asks Nelly the same clinical questions every day, and every day refuses to believe her answers. Mezzo-soprano Rayanne Bryce Davis makes her debut with Opera Philadelphia as Lizzie, an inmate who has been labeled insane due to her expressions of maternal grief, viewed as excessive by society. As we in 21st century Philadelphia reckon with the history of such local institutions as the Eastern State Penitentiary and the Pennhurst Asylum, this opera further opens up conversations surrounding how we can tell these stories so that the voices of the past are heard and a path to a more inclusive, less oppressive future can be imagined. We look forward to welcoming you to 10 Days in a Madhouse.